But
We can't all make it to Raleigh.
well, I know it's very true. And came back in 1985, started a financial services firm, Capital Management Group of the Carolinas. That's us. So we've been here since the late 80s and early 90s. 2008, I got an itch and was appointed to the Statesville Planning Board and served there until 2013. Decided at that point that I was going to run for city council. My dad had always been involved in civic organizations and politics, basically behind the scenes. He never ran for office. So I felt like it was time. I served 2 terms on city council until 2022. The last 4 years, I was mayor pro tem. And while on city council, represented the city on the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization, as you have done. I was treasurer of the Central Carolina Council of Governments, on the board of the League of Municipalities for North Carolina and the Lake Norman Transportation Committee, as you have done. In 2020, our friend Tim Moore, Speaker of the House, appointed me to the State Economic Development Board, the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. I should give you an aside and thank you for your support for that organization, from the legislature. Why am I running? Well, I think it's important to know that I'm not running against anybody. Okay,
Right.
I'm running for the opportunity to serve those 32,000 people, according to the last census, that live here in Statesville. We're seeing a tremendous influx and growth, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in just
Finally
a moment.
got here.
Finally got here. We took the wall down. Mr. Gorbachev took down the wall. It's time. Costi has served the city well as mayor. Wish him well in his quasi-political retirement with his grandchildren. And spending time in the law office and doing whatever it is Costi wants to do. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
Well, like I said, as the old saying is, been there, done that.
That's right.
Been involved in a whole lot of different things. So, being both of us on Carpo there, I think Michael might have been serving when I was county commissioner then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Michael Johnson. But so experience is what we're bringing to the table.
Yeah. 17 years of municipal experience, some again off on the wings at the state level, and a lot of friends inside the Beltway in Washington. So I think those contacts will serve us well.
Well, I agree. All right. Our next question is what is the biggest problem or issue facing Statesville at this time, and how would you fix it?
Wow. I don't think it's a problem yet. I think it's an issue, but if not addressed, it's a problem. And as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, that's that exponential growth that we're seeing. We finally got the Charlotte Creek, it worked its way through Huntersville and Cornelius and Davidson and Mooresville and Troutman, and now here it is. I went back and looked in 2022 when I left council. There were roughly 12,000 single family residences inside the city limits. Okay? Between what has been built, what is under construction, what is in some form of entitlement or is planned to be built, that's an additional almost 6,000 units, almost 50% increase in the population of the city of Statesville. Don't get me wrong, growth is not bad, okay? And growth is inevitable, but growth needs to be controlled. It needs to be planned. I think we can say some of our friends down south of here had to react to growth that was rapidly coming, as opposed to be able to plan for the growth that is actively coming. And a lot of considerations as far as growth is concerned. It taxes the city's ability to provide services, and it costs the city. We've got to have fire protection, got to have police protection. You've got to provide water and sewer.
A lot of upfront money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And ongoing as well. So we need to, even schools. And when I say that, people say, well, William, if you'll remember, the city doesn't fund the schools. And I would almost beg to differ. If you're a city resident, you're a county resident.
Yeah.
And you're paying county taxes. You're funding the schools. So the collaboration between the city council and the county commissioners, the conversations with the school board, if we're going to discuss growth, if we're going to bring in a 300 unit housing development, the school system ought to know that. And the county commissioners ought to know that just before we pound the gavel and say it's approved. So there needs to be a little bit more collaboration. So I think planning for it, addressing what type we want, where we want it, and how we're going to serve it, and being a little bit more methodical about it, I think will serve us well.
Well, and like I said, so now we got the infrastructure issue. We'll work on this question for a little bit here. We got the infrastructure issue of water and sewer, and whether it's the old pipes that we got to go in probably and replace, or whether it's new ones we're going to lay. And next thing you know, we're going to be at capacity, over capacity on
right.
water and sewer. Now we're talking about a very expensive proposition to allow these people to come into Statesville or to stay in Statesville and their families grow or whatever. And that's going to end up being an issue inside itself. With growth comes the how are we going to take care of the infrastructure side of this?
Sure. Well, you've heard it said that he who controls the sewer basically controls everything.
Yeah.
And we were lucky enough to build the Third Creek wastewater facility. It's about 30% plus or minus capacity now down Highway 70. But Fourth Creek wastewater treatment facility is nearing 80%. And you know what happens from the legislative standpoint
Yep.
when you near 80%.
You got to start planning.
You've got to start planning for that. And there's been some discussions of ways to remediate that, maybe shift some from one to another. You're kicking the can down the road. You've got to address that situation. We're lucky to be blessed with the ability to pull water from 2 basins. So we've got a lot of water, but that water's got to have some place to go. And when those people move into that house, that brand new house and that brand new subdivision, they want the spigot to put water out, and they want the toilet to flush. And not to mention the electricity. We'll talk about that later too.
Well, like I said, going to be challenging because, you know, we've seen a lot of streets in downtown Statesville tore up, and they're reworking. They're either reworking electrical. Most of it's reworking water and sewer.
That's right.
Though, where there's either, and I do like what they're doing. I know it's a pain out there, folks, that are riding around Statesville, and you go to one street and you got to take a detour and this, that, and the other. But it used to, they'd dig one little hole and patch the pipe.
Right.
Now they're digging up chunks of it and replacing majority of it, because I always say, you patch one place, you might as well get ready to dig another hole about 10 feet down or 10 feet up to patch it. So that kind of keeps it keeps the street tore up for a little while, but hopefully you don't have to go back there.
That's right.
And continue to keep patching and patching and patching.
Well,
So,
and that's what led to the now famous streetscape.
right.
You know, we were replacing sewer lines that were old terracotta lines that were almost 100 years old. And while you had the street torn up, you might as well make it look pretty downtown. So that's where that came from. And then
And a lot of people say, now y'all didn't do it, but we did so we didn't put in new water and sewer underneath.
we did.
of it.
We did.
Yeah, that was the smart thing to do.
and
Why do
then-
it twice?
And then got $20 million to run the sewer, or run the water line from the water treatment facility to Troutman. It will connect down at that point. So everybody will have nice, fresh drinking water and nice packed pipes.
I think that might have been the 20 million we scrapped up for you. We got in some.
You got
about
your hands
23.
dirty on
Yeah.
that one. Yes, you did.
Yep. So that was a good move. Well, and I don't know what the answer is going to be, but I'm afraid that Statesville didn't grow, and then we're going to really grow.
Right.
Because Troutman has come to a point where they got a moratorium.
Right.
I mean, you know, I don't know how long. I think he can only have it for so many
Legal
months.
or not, you know, that's right.
Yeah, and so now the growth's going to have to come from Statesville, who has water and sewer capacity, which Troutman doesn't. So this is going to be an interesting issue, and we'll see. And of course, there's a big debate between Troutman and Statesville about a whole lot of things with water and sewer.
Right.
That's got to come to head too. So get ready for some fun if you get elected.
Conversation is welcome.
Yep. Gonna have it. So, all right. Number 3, the citizens of the states will pay some of the highest tax rates in the region. Are they getting a good deal? And would you raise taxes more? And this is always a scary question for a politician.
It is. Well, let's level the playing field. Okay. You know, Statesville's tax rate is right at 52 cents per $100 of property valuation.
Yeah.
And what do you get for that 52 cents? Okay. You're getting the general fund being funded, and that you've got water, you got sewer, you got stormwater, all of that being taken care of. Statesville as a municipality has its own electric department. We're part of Electricities. So we're funding an electric department, all the public safety, the fire, the police, the airport, which a lot of municipalities don't have. We have our own sanitation department. So we're running those trucks. You know, again, all of that's wrapped up in that tax rate.
Plus Powell Bill and Streets.
That's exactly right. So you look at our friends in Cornelius at a 17.3 cent per 100 tax rate, and that looks awfully cheap. Well, they don't have water or sewer. CMUD, Charlotte Mecklenburg Utility, takes care of that. They don't have electric. They're not funding an electric department. And they don't have sanitation. So if you level the playing field, we're probably pretty even with our peers. And you know, it's interesting. Take a look at Troutman. You mentioned them earlier. They're at 63 cents per $100 of property valuation, but they don't have electric, they don't have sanitation, and they don't have an airport. So their tax rate is even higher than the city of Statesville. So, if you compare municipalities our size, we're pretty much in the mix at this point. But to your point, is it too high or is it too low? Uh, to address that question, you need to be more cognizant of being a good steward of the taxpayers' money. Okay, there's a big difference between your wants and your needs. Okay, your needs, as we've mentioned, the water, the sewer, the electric, you want all of those things to happen. And once you've got that funded, then there comes a little bit of room, maybe a little bit of change in the couch that you could find for those wants, the things that people need, the quality of life issues, things of that nature. So luckily with the growth comes the tax revenue ultimately to be able to provide some of that. It's not going to happen overnight. And as you know, it's always phased in. We've got some large industrial projects and commercial projects that will be coming in that are nice to have. But again, it's not going to happen all overnight. So in terms of the tax rate, having the lowest tax rate doesn't mean you've got a badge of honor. It just means that you've got hopefully what you need to be able to fund what it is that needs to be funded. I've been through 8 budget cycles, and raising taxes is never fun.
Oh, no.
When you go through the COVID issue, if you're lucky to get revenue neutral, that's fine. But again, that's a hard explanation to make. Why are you raising taxes if you're saying you're not? It's kind of the smoke and mirrors.
And you got reevaluations involved there, and you'll always, you kind of snigger in a way because, hey, we actually dropped your tax rate, 2 cents on the 100, and then they go, well, but my tax bill is up.
That's right. Yeah. You live in a nicer house
Yeah.
without even having to move.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
So
it's an issue that needs to be looked at on a constant basis, not waiting for that reevaluation to happen. The city of Statesville's got in that. We'll get to that too in a moment. But we've got a lot of capital projects in the capital improvement plan. Again, that's like Santa Claus's wish list. You've got a lot of things, over $200 million worth of requests in a short period of time, and a politically charged short period of time. 10, 15 years, that's a short period of time.
Oh, yeah. And
that's a lot of money to spend. So you're going to be having to pay for some of these. Some of those will go by the wayside, but they all need to be addressed.
Well, I've seen it. You've seen it before. It's a whole lot easier to kick the can down the road than it is to pick the can up and try to take it in, get it recycled, and take that money and do something with it.
Right. That's right. That's a good way of putting it. I hadn't thought about it that way. But, and again, the municipalities our size, Salisbury's at 66 cents. I think Hickory's at 47 or 48 cents, somewhere in there. So we find ourselves kind of in the mix where we are. Iredell County as a county is one of the lowest tax rates in the state.
But it doesn't do roads. It doesn't do water, sewer. It doesn't do any kind of electricity. It doesn't do sanitation.
That's
I mean,
right.
they do have a landfill.
Yeah,
They do take care of the landfill. They make money on it. It's an enterprise. It's not a deficit. It's a positive. And so, I guess they'll say, and what are you doing with the money, and what all do you provide for the money? And that's where we got to decide whether we're getting our value or not.
that's right. That's
right.
right. And it's a conversation that needs to be had, as I said, more often than not. Don't wait till budget time to have these conversations. It should be an ongoing process.
Well, and that'll be the thing. If you have to start to look at Fourth Creek and expand it, we're probably talking about, I would think, no less than 50 million, but more like 75 to 100 million.
You're
100 million seems to be an easy number to talk
it's a
about.
nice round number.
It is. Yeah, just a little
Doesn't
thing.
mean what it used to.
Yeah, that's right. It's a carrying around money. It's folding money. But it's I look to see that because that's going to about double. It'll take probably close to 100 million to double the size of Fourth Creek. And when you look where Statesville's probably going to expand, it's going to be north.
Yeah.
It just is. I mean, it'll go some south, but then you got the deciding point. Where's Troutman come to, and where does Statesville go to? And
that could be a point of discussion.
That's a moving line constantly. I see. We, 1 minute we got it worked out, next minute not so much. So, but it is interesting. And going north, it will tax on Fourth Creek's sewer plant. It will.
Yep.
And so that's where we've kind of been.
Yep.
So that's going to be the tricky part. That really is.
And that's the type of stuff, Jeff, that you deal with in Raleigh all the time. That's not sexy stuff.
No, it's not.
Water and sewer is not sexy.
It's not.
It's not a greenway. It's not the things that people like to brag about. I don't know many of us that'll brag about a sewer treatment facility. But my name is on the plaque at Third Creek, so I do appreciate that.
There you go.
But
Right there next to whatever.
there's something to be said about my name on a waste treatment facility. I don't know.
Anyway, all right. Well, let's talk about number 4. All right, question is: some people feel that being the mayor is more a ceremonial role. Do you believe that is true? Would you change that impression?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've thought about that.
That's
Actually,
kind
since I got
there's no right or wrong answers.
no.
in these things.
I thought about that since I got elected. That, as I said, Costi has been a very good proponent of the city of Statesville. And as you know, the mayor of Statesville does not have a vote unless it's to break a tie.
This is die.
And my first 4 years on council, to my recollection, Costi never voted once in 4 years. The first night after the next election, my second term, he voted 3 times in one night.
Well, there you go.
Okay. So with elections come consequences. It is a ceremonial role. I mean, you need to be out there. You're cutting the ribbons. You're advocating for the city.
Shaking babies, kissing hands.
That's right. A little bit backwards, but I understand. You need to be going to Raleigh and advocating for the city. You need to be going to Washington and advocating for the city. You need to be involved regionally. We're not just Statesville right here. We've got a lot of counties that touch us. We've got a lot of friends and neighbors that we need to collaborate with. So there are some things that are ceremonial. But a good mayor should be able to build a consensus and talk problems through. And it would be interesting to see if you could get through 4 years without having to vote. I don't think that's going to be the case. Just looking at the landscape, everybody's got their own opinions and agendas, and everybody's opinion is right. We just got to come to a collective agreement as to what's best for the city of Statesville, not necessarily what's best for your ward if you're representing a ward, but for the entire city of Statesville. Yes, you were elected by your ward, but you're representing the city of Statesville. So all of these issues need to be brought together, and I would hope that the mayor would be able to build a consensus. To change that, where the mayor could vote, I think would require you tell me legislative action. I would assume a local bill, probably.
Yeah.
I do think, however, that the city needs to know what the mayor thinks. Don't hide behind something. If you believe in something, advocate for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that's going to go. That would be an interesting
Well,
discussion
I
to
do.
have.
I do know the complexion of the board is going to change because one long serving and Jap Johnson,
Right.
and one not so long but has a
Yes,
political career.
Absolutely.
Steve Johnson,
Right.
both of them not running this time. So there'll be some new faces, new ideas, maybe more conservative, maybe less conservative. We don't know. We don't know where they're going to fall.
Right.
We don't know who's going to get elected. A lot of people are putting their name in the hat, and so you'll have some new and different personalities to deal with if you get elected as mayor, and that's going to sort of decide a lot about how you decide to change that position to a point. Like I said, you may get more votes.
I mean, in a bigger gavel. You
Yeah.
know, the city of Statesville, and I've said this before, is a 180, almost $200 million business. And we had 8 board of directors members. Those are your council members. You've got 1 chairman of the board. That's your mayor. And come November the 4th, regardless of who wins, 4 of those board of directors members, those council members, are going to be new. Some with experience, some with no experience. So you're right. The person sitting in that center seat should have experience to be able to try to, again, bring everybody together to a consensus to get things done. I mean, gridlock is horrible. I don't know how you
I'm there
do
now.
it. I don't know how you do it. Give me yes, give me no, but maybe kills opportunity. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm a big boy. I can take a no. But you've got to get things done. We don't have the pleasure that our good friends in Washington have to just, keep printing money while the government's on a standstill.
That's right.
We've got to get things done.
Well, I know. All right. We're getting down here. We got about, about 6 minutes, and this may take a good bit of it. We'll see. All right. It appears that the $5 billion, maybe more, dollar data center is going to happen out on Stamey Farm Road. And there should be, if my math's correct, about $25 million when it all comes to fruition and new revenue coming in taxes in a year's time on it. What should we do with this new influx of money? We've won the lottery.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard, the numbers are out there. I've heard everything from $1 billion to north of $5 billion. Okay. Either way, it's going to be a tremendous amount of money. Okay. So good question. The first thing you do is you take your playbook from your church and you tithe. And you take a good chunk of money and stick it in that general fund for a rainy day, because luckily, knocking on wood, we're not in a recession. I don't see one in my day job. I don't see one on the horizon anytime soon. But we're going to go through one at some point, and there's going to be a period.
There'll always be a step back.
Exactly, and there's going to be a point there where we need to have those funds available. As I mentioned, we've got a host, 200 million plus worth of projects that have been identified for the capital improvement projects that'll be done over the next 5, 10, 15 plus years. Again, some of those are necessary. You mentioned the wastewater treatment facility expansion. Absolutely. We're working on our 5th fire station. The property's been purchased for that. It hadn't been built yet. Probably going to need a 6th in a short order. Okay. Especially if the growth continues on the path
especially
that
up
it's
north.
Well, exactly. So setting aside some funds for that, that's important. But I think one of the things you need to keep in mind is that let's use your $5 billion number and that $25 million. It's going to be phased. It's not all going to come in. They're not going to write a $25 million check at once.
Get there.
So it's you've got to plan what projects you want to use those funds for as the money's coming online. It's also important to note that a lot of those funding or those funds are in equipment, which is depreciable. Now, with it being a data center, with it being computer oriented, I would assume that they're going to continually update and put in new equipment. You know, when you buy a laptop, by the time it gets here from Dell, it's out of date. Okay. So that's one of the things that they'll have to continually do. So you're going to have a baseline amount of money, but it's going to take you a while to figure out exactly what that is and how to use it. You know, I think it was our good friends in, was it Maiden, where the Amazon facility went?
Yeah.
They were able to build a fire station. They were able to build a new city hall. I think they actually lowered the tax rate, if I'm not mistaken, and they funded schools. So there are a lot of things that can be done. Lowering the tax rate, that may be a slippery slope. It may not be able to stay there. Once you lower it, at some point it may need to go back. But it's a nice problem to have, let's put it that way. So it's going to require some pretty thoughtful planning as to how to use those funds.
Well, and you probably know this as well as I do. I'm sure you do. I always said the easiest budgets I ever did were when we were broke.
No question.
Because you ain't got the money. I'm just going to do what we got to do. And we're not going to have to say no to, I mean, it's say no to everybody.
Well, you either cut it or you raise it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. And so when money comes, then there's decisions got to be made. You know, everybody's got these great ideas and great projects and great things that would really help Statesville, really help the area, whatever. But you can't do everything.
That's right.
You can't do the one thing I always caution everybody when you have an influx come into government. I look at, we laughed about, we hit the lottery, but I look at people that have won the lottery, and I think it's up to about 75% of them are broker after 5 years of winning the lottery than they were before.
Sure.
They get the money came in, they couldn't figure out how to handle it, whatever. So that's a thing you've got to be cognizant of. What can go wrong with all this money coming in? Where are we going? And I always warn my farmers, they'll go to their accountant or no offense, even their financial guy. And he says, well, you need to go buy something. You know, or you're going to pay taxes. Well, they don't really quite have enough money to actually buy the whole tractor or buy that piece of land. They can maybe put down a really good down payment or pay half or something. And next thing you know, they've got a payment that they didn't have. So they avoided paying Uncle Sam a good chunk of money, but now they're farther deeper in debt.
Right.
And they have an issue. So there's a lot of things going on, makes it really tricky, makes it really tough. But there's worse problems to have than having an influx of a lot of money.
Well, and I think one of the first questions you need to ask yourself when you get around the table and you get through patting yourself on the back is, all right, what happens if they go away next year? Okay. You've got all of this planned. You've already started these projects. You've moved the dirt. You've built this. You've done that. You promised this. Oops. You know, so you need to plan for, you know, I wake up every day in my day job preparing for the worst. Okay. Market crash, somebody loses their job, somebody passes away. How are you going to deal with that? And in some respects, you probably ought to do the same thing here. This is a great problem, as you said, to have. But if it goes away, it could be even more of a problem if you've overcommitted.
I'll tell you the financial advice my grandfather, who was a farmer all his life, gave me. He said, "Son, the only sure way to double your money is fold it
Fold it
once
in
and
half.
put it in your pocket."
You're a wise man.
Hey,
wise
William,
man.
appreciate you having.
Thank you.
Want to find out more about you online? Is there any kind of thing on Facebook?
Sure.
Or what you got?
Facebook is the Committee to Elect William Morgan. The website, voteforwilliammorgan.com. Cell number is always out there. It's 704-906-5508.
He's lost his mind.
Hey, I put it on my card.
I do too. That's what. Hey, don't take this job if you don't like talking to people.
That's exactly right.
All right, folks. Appreciate you having you on here, William.
Thanks, Jeff.
Folks, stay tuned for the second part of the show. So hang with us. Thank you.
Kids across America are going to school hungry. Millions of kids every day. But one simple thing can help change all of this for a hungry child in America. Good, healthy food and the energy it brings. With help from caring people across America, No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. To learn more about ending child hunger in America, go to helpnokidhungry.org today.
We all want more of a North Carolina. More boundless views, more adventures in the outdoors, and more clean roads to get there. But to get more, we have to do less. Less littering, that is. Make it your nature to trash your trash and keep NC clean. And we'll all have more reasons to love North Carolina. Litter less, get more. For more on the 7 outdoor NC Leave No Trace principles, visit OutdoorNC.com. Sponsored by the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters and Visit North Carolina, a part of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina in cooperation with this station.
We all play a role in keeping our community safe.
Every day, we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good, others not so much.
But that's life.
It's when something doesn't seem quite right that it's time to pay attention.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Bravo, Brenda. You've always been a saver. Price matching your price matches. The self-proclaimed queen of extreme couponing. But this time you've truly outdone yourself. By saving for this electric vehicle, you're locking in up to $1,000 a year in fuel and maintenance savings, which will leave you saying, cha-ching, every time you unplug. Good for your wallet, great for the planet. That's the power of EV. Sponsored by the NC Clean Energy Technology Center and the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters in cooperation with this station.
All right, back here with the second half of the show. If anybody would like to call in, give us a holler, 704-873-9929. We'll talk about the mayor's race. We'll talk about whatever you got on your mind. Before we get into the big stuff like the Taylor Swift's new album and the government shutdown, I do want to bring up the USDA has OK grants on September the 5th, and we're just now getting a hold of the money, but $221 million grant. And basically what this grant does is on the ag side, it's a block grant with the Department of Agriculture to aid farmers recovering from Hurricane Helene. So it's 31 counties, and believe it or not, Iredell's included in that. I worked and got us kind of pushed in there. We were catching a lot of stuff coming downstream. We had some little spotty flooding, but we were blessed, folks, from what I can tell. And the funding will cover qualifying infrastructure, timber, market, and future revenue loss not addressed by other programs. And it's part of a $30 billion disaster relief effort authorized by the American Relief Act of 2025. The USDA's got 14 states, including North Carolina, and they're working through this. And the Department of Agriculture, Consumer Science Services is going to be the one that sets the program up and the guidelines. And I know you're probably out there going, well, where's this going to go? Well, one of the people that I think, or one of the entities that I think that might fall into this, and I've already contacted them because they had contacted me, right after the hurricane and stuff they went through, a company up in Asheville called Milkco, Milkco. So they bottle milk. They're the milk bottling and distribution side of Ingalls, but they're a separate entity. And folks, let me tell you what, 2 days after Helene, or 3, when the water finally subsided some, They were under about 20 foot of water. They work right there on the river, and they actually use water out of the French Broad, and they, treat it and do it and use it for everything from putting in the milk to also using it for cleaning and flushing out their equipment, the whole 9 yards. Well, they had to get at least 1 to 2 tractor trailer loads of water, because you could not pull from the French Broad or could not pull from the municipal, wasn't there, because they pull from the French Broad. So to keep that plant up and going, and to be able to take milk from farmers all over pretty much Western North Carolina and some out of even Tennessee, Virginia, they had to bring in water. And so they ended up, after about 21 or 2 days of having to haul water in until Asheville could get their municipal water going, about $1.5 million worth of water hauled in. And a lot of people are saying, and they were able to move products out. So people here in the Piedmont didn't experience a shortage on milk. Our farmers didn't have to dump milk. It was a real critical process that they did, an amazing effort they did to clean that plant up, get it back up and going, and get the milk in and get milk out up there to the stores. And not only did they do Ingles, but they packaged for a lot of other grocery stores. So it was great for the region. It got a product, hopefully they had power to keep it cool, but it got a nutritious product out there for everybody that was looking for food, needing something. And they gave away a lot of milk to a lot of the different rescue centers that they had set up and whatnot. So great partner. But basically, they could have sat there and said, no, we're not going to do a thing until Asheville gets up and going. And instead, they took $1.5 million loss to work hard to make sure things kept going. And so I feel like they're a company that qualifies for this kind of weird and unusual. And they're part of ag, because they're accepting an agricultural product. So I'm going to work to try to help them. But there's other companies out there similar to them doing the same thing that are really not farmers and farming. But hey, if you're farming and you don't have a place to go with your product, then you're just growing stuff. The definition of a farmer is somebody that grows and sells and makes a living. So it's critical to have the infrastructure. I think they had the infrastructure. I think it's a great thing we got this grant. Hopefully they're going to be able to work with the Department of Ag and get something going. All right. Now, like I said, if anybody wants to call in and talk about any of this, we got this government shutdown going on. 704-873-9929. Give us a holler. The Senate Democrats have forced, and I guess both sides, the House too, but they were able to move the continuing resolution. You'll hear it called the CR continuing resolution. Basically and they've done 13 of these, y'all. And this is the same thing they've done 12 times before. The last time Chuck Schumer went along, the far left, the crazy, just gave him down the road about it and how he caved and all this, that, and the other. So this time he listened to them, and he went ahead and shut down the government. And so the Senate Democrats are sitting up there, and there's 7 people short. They got 53, I think, that have come, counting a couple Democrats, not many, but a couple. So they're 7 votes short from what I understand. And they keep having votes, and, you keep getting the same results. I think that's called crazy, but I don't know. So, they're actually, the Democrat stance on this right now is they're wanting to undo the big, beautiful bill. And their main thing they're hollering about is going to be about $1.5 trillion in spending, is to reintroduce all the Medicaid of the Biden era, which was still jacked up from COVID, so everybody can get all the free medical. And that sounds wonderful, but it also means that all the illegal immigrants that they've been giving all this to, that become illegal, they'll go ahead and get it too. That's been stopped as of right now, except for, I guess, emergency room visits. When they show up, we're going to do whatever. But so the fight is on, and I don't see the Republican senators or Trump, either one, budging on this continuing resolution. It's only for 7 weeks, and we'll do all this again. And so if you look and you see that different parts of the government are shut down right now, and you're not getting this and you're not getting that assistance, well, you can thank a Democrat, because they're the ones that are doing this. They're holding the country hostage for what to me amounts to is crazy. I do know this, that the Trump administration has went ahead and stopped sending money to 2 different transit projects. One of them's New York City, and the other one happens to be Chicago. And both of them were getting huge chunks of federal money for their transit system, their subway system. And so all that is just come to a screeching halt. So we'll see how that goes. Interesting times. I just have a real difficult time not seeing where you would not vote for the same thing that you voted for 12 times before this time, and the Republicans voted for it when you were in charge. But now you're just being obstructionist to make sure that, you can cry and everybody hears your tantrum that you're pitching, because that's what I feel like this is. And now the really funny part is Chuck Schumer feels like he's got to do this, or he may get challenged in a primary for his U.S. Senate seat by AOC. Now, wouldn't that be interesting to have AOC in the Senate? She's crazy enough in the House, where there's about 430 members. So just think about if we put her in there with just 100. And, you've got her, you've got Mondani, you've got all these different people that are leading the charge on the left, and Bernie Sanders. And so there's where we're at. That's the Democrat Party. And they don't really have any kind of message other than we want to make sure we give free medical to illegals that crossed our border. And now we're having to pay for them in so many different ways. So this is very interesting to me. This is very crazy to me, but it's very interesting, and we'll see how long this goes. Just remember, though, folks, that Barack Obama closed the government down for 13 days to put pressure on the Republican Senate, which Democrats had the majority, but didn't have 60 votes to get Obamacare passed, which has been one of the most expensive taxes ever put on the American public. So just remember, this is not the Republicans. This is the Democrats playing the games that they always play. And there is precedence. So trust me, it's out there. All right. We're going to move on and talk a little bit about Josh Stein finally signed Irina's law that we passed. It took him to the very last day. He tried his darndest to get out of it, but he felt like at the end he about had to, because these are common sense things. What we did with this law was end cashless bail. And I talked a little bit about this on the program before, but I think I need to go back over it again. Because the funny thing is Josh Stein is going to catch a lot of crap from his left wing of his party for signing something that's actually making us more safe and more secure. Once again, we're talking crazy. So this will end cashless bail. Cashless bail actually has been where most of these blue cities, they've let crime run rampant, so their jails are overcrowded. And if somebody don't come bail them out in a week or two, they get tired of looking at them. I don't care what they're in there for. It could even be murder. They'll let them sign themselves out. No bail, no bond, no nothing. Just come sign your name on this and we'll let you go. And you show back up for your court trial. I hope you'll be here. So we're ending that. And that's where the guy that killed this lady on the subway in Charlotte, he was out on cashless bail because nobody wanted to come get him out. They wanted him to stay in the jail. His family did, or get him to some mental institution. Tougher rules on violent offenders. We're going to step up the bonds and mandatory house arrest on second-time offenders for whatever. And third time, we're not going to give a bond at all. And also restricting judicial loopholes. It's going to limit judicial discretion that has allowed violent repeat offenders to be released pre-trial. So we're going to set up basically what it's going to take, what kind of bail's got to be put. The judge can't vary his feelings or her feelings of whatever they think that day. And the magistrates and judges will have to follow it. Mandatory mental health evaluation. Sometimes it's recommended, and sometimes the DA or the judge says, no, we don't have to do that. No, if it's been recommended, they're going to have the mental evaluation. Now, the big thing is we're going to have to figure out some place to put these people. I have been lobbying like crazy in the House down there this year for expansion of Davis Hospital here in Statesville. It is a psychiatric hospital, basically only a floor and a half out of 6 floors is open. It needs about $12 million to go ahead and double the amount of bed capacity. And also that would fix some of the HVAC issues they got. We got to bring it up to standard, but it's there. We don't have to go build a new facility. We don't have to go reinvent the wheel. And this money, sadly, is sitting over at DHHS from a budget before. And I need 12 million, and there's about 30 million over there. But the problem we have right now is with the stalled budget talks ourselves in Raleigh, this is considered a member earmark, and I can't get a hold of that money. I had it in the budget, and now it's just sitting there. And I've tried to explain to them that this is a mental hospital that we're trying to expand, and we need all the beds we can. This is not a member project. It may happen to be in my district, but that hospital over there has serviced people from over 68 counties in North Carolina, plus Virginia, Tennessee, South Carolina, and even Georgia. So it's housed all kind of people. This is not a member project. If any of my fellow representatives or senators are out there listening, this is a mental health crisis project that just happens to be here in my area. I'd vote for this no matter where it was. This is smart, common sense. Please help me, folks. Call the Speaker's office, call the Pro Tem's office in the Senate. Tell them to go ahead and let's fund getting Davis Hospital back up where we can double the amount of beds or more, even if they want to spend that money to make it a better mental hospital, which we need all we can get. Also, we brought in the death penalty reforms, and they're only going to have 2 years on cases going forward to do the appeals. And older ones are only going to have 1 year from the time this is signed to get their appeals in. We're ready to start going ahead and reactivating the death penalty. And I do believe if you make the penalty harsh enough, you will curtail the problem. I know my mom and dad, now they didn't kill me, but like I said, the beatings increased until the attitudes and changed or improved, as the old saying, until morale improves. So I think this is going to be a good thing, this law. We're going to maybe actually allow law enforcement officers to do their job and not have to continually recatch the same people, process them and watch them go right out the revolving door and go back and do the same crap again and go out and catch them again. I know that's been hard on them. It would be difficult for me, and that's will maybe help pick up their morale and maybe help us get more people involved that want to come and be law enforcement officers if they really get a chance to make people obey the law. I think this is going to be a really unique situation. We'll see how that goes. We hope so. One thing else I wanted to talk to you about also, a lot of people out there are on Medicaid in North Carolina. Now, Medicare is for older. Medicaid is for people that cannot really afford insurance or poor, some issue or another. We expanded it a couple of years ago. We thought it would take a while for it ever peaked. No, it took about 8 months for it peaked. Everybody signed up, because when you're giving away all of a sudden free medical to people that don't have medical insurance, you'd be surprised how many take advantage of that. And I get it. So now we got issues because our budget's lingering. We put $600 million into a mini budget here back at the end of July. That would have carried us easily, and still will, into March, April, when we'll start our short session. Well, the governor said that didn't fully fund it. It needed about $800 million. And so because of that, he's done told everybody at DHHS to send out all the different papers to all the people and all the providers and basically saying he's going to cut the rebase. And the rebase basically is what you get paid if you're a provider. That's what's covered. And nobody's called in, right? I didn't see nothing. All right. If anybody wants to call and talk about this to me is big. So the governor's playing politics. So he went ahead and decided to cut the rebase already, even though there's plenty of money there. So we go back in here the last part of September, and the Senate passes a bill, sends to us, and basically it's adding about 190 some million dollars to the rebate. So that puts us right at the 800 million that the governor thinks we need. But they also add in a children's hospital. Now, it's just the tip of the iceberg, a couple $100 million. This children's hospital is going to probably cost closer to 750 million, maybe $1 billion before it's said and done. It's going to be a collaboration between UNC and Duke. Hey, sounds wonderful. We already got 5 children's hospitals across North Carolina. Each one of those, Duke and Carolina now, have a children wing, So supposedly there's about 200 kids that need a special care that we're not able to give here in North Carolina, and they're having to go elsewhere. And I'm sorry that they have these issues, these illnesses, diseases, and they're having to go to different parts of the country where there's a specialist. But by building $1 billion hospital, I don't know if we'll still have these specialists, because it seems like there's always a new disease or syndrome come up for 200 kids. And $1 billion seems to me like, once again, we're reinventing a wheel. Why not just go ahead and spend some money at each one of the children's hospitals that are more regional, and let's make them better? They've already got the infrastructure there. Why start over? And know this, if it costs $1 billion to build it, it'll cost at least $500 million to keep it running every year. So now you set up a whole new entity, and yeah, they'll maybe charge or whatever, but I can guarantee you right now, the state and each taxpayer in this state will be on the hook. And that's a huge amount of money, especially in a time when we're trying to rebuild Western North Carolina and do all these things. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's the right time. I'm not sure if there is a right time. Spend the money at the individual children's hospitals we have, bring in those specialists, house them there. Let's do it that way. Let's expand them. That makes sense. Besides, the hospital's name was going to be named after Phil Berger, who's the head of the Senate. Really? I always thought you had to be dead before you got stuff named after you. Yeah, who knows? Anyway, so I think I got a real problem with that. So they sent us their bill with the hospital in it. We sent back a bill without the hospital in it. Right now it's sitting there. If we don't show up and vote on it till this spring, we're still fine. The governor is going to make it look like a crisis because it's a good political way to say we're not getting our budget done. So, just to shame us to a point. There may be a little shame in that we're not getting the budget done, but it has nothing to do with getting Medicaid paid. The money is there. The money's there. Now the money is completely there. We're going to go back in at the end of the month. Hopefully the Senate's going to pick up our bill, because I don't think there's no way in the world we're going to pick up their bill to fund a hospital to get starting on it. It's just not going to happen. So now get down here. We're getting a little close to the nitty gritty. So we're going to talk about this. I always like to do this segment at the end of the show, and it's called As Crazy as It Gets. And here we are. All right. I don't know how many of y'all remember, but Judge Jefferson Griffith, who ran for the North Carolina Supreme Court, ended up, had 10,000 votes ahead the night he went to sleep on election day. But by the time it got said and done, I think he ended up losing by about maybe 700 or 800 votes after they went and hunted here and high and low and found them. And he brought a legal case to suit over this, saying that they were an astronomical amount, about 50,000 people, I think it was. Really, there's more than that, but a minimum of 50,000 that didn't have completed registration of their voter ID to allow them to vote, but yet they still voted. And here's the rub in that case. we had at one time about 225,000 people that either did not have their full social security number or did not have a driver's license number or both, some way to identify these people. So they were that many. He just brought up ones that sort of fell into a certain gamut. And also in there are people who have never lived in North Carolina their entire life, but claim to be North Carolina citizens in foreign countries and mail their votes in through absentee balloting. And believe it or not, there were over 800 or 900 of those. So just those people alone possibly made the difference in the election of who's serving on our Supreme Court right now. So that was just one of the different categories. So we flipped the leadership at this North Carolina State Board of Elections. We take it away from somebody appointed by Roy Cooper. We put in Sam Hayes, who I've had on my show and talked, but Sam was just getting new to the job. And so he, didn't say a lot, didn't express a lot. So now Sam is the head of our North Carolina State Board of Elections under Dave Bolick and our auditor's office. So there's a lawsuit that was filed by the Trump administration against North Carolina because we did not have the full documentation of these voters. There was a law passed, and this law was actually passed, I think, under Biden. I'm pretty sure it was, and it's called the HAVA, H-A-V-A. We love to use acronyms, and that's Help America Vote Act. And in the HAVA, it talked about having completed voter registrations with all the requirements that each state requires, including North Carolina. So this lawsuit was actually filed by the U.S. Department of Justice over missing driver's license numbers and the Social Security digit numbers. So now Sam Hayes is there and it goes to court, and the North Carolina State Board of Elections agrees to settle the case with the U.S. Department of Justice by doing what's needed to be done, and that's completing either all of these registrations, getting the information, or kicking them out of the system if they're not real people, if they don't live in North Carolina, and if it doesn't fall into what's law-abiding citizens that are allowed to vote in North Carolina. Guess what? The Democrats are suing because that's giving out too much personal information. So you have the Democrat National Committee and the North Carolina Alliance for Retired Americans. Now, I don't know who these 10 people are that are probably at the North Carolina Alliance for Retired Americans. It's obviously a sham of a nonprofit set up by the North Carolina Democratic Committee, I feel like, but they're suing. They're asking a federal judge to reconsider his final approval of his consent order that would have solved the lawsuit and fixed the problems that we have because of this. And they had a 13-page thing that they put out, that basically said, oh, Lord, that this is so bad. You're going to know too much about these people. You're going to have way too much information. Folks, it's how we get registered to vote. Now you can go on and you can find out a lot of things about people on online voter registration, but I cannot get their social security number and I cannot get their last 4 digits of their driver's license number. I cannot do these things online. I cannot find out. They're saying that if they give this information, there's a chance that the North Carolina Board of Elections could get hacked and they would have it. Somebody else would. Well, guess what? Anybody can get hacked with any information. I'm sorry you're required, but you are. All right, folks. If that ain't about as crazy as it gets, I don't know what is. But that's where we're at. We're going to go ahead and end it today. Let's say a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, dear Lord, I pray for common sense for us all. I pray for the God-given ability to reason and think that you give and bestow on all of us. Some evidently get more blessed than others. I pray you bless us all. Be with us, lead and guide us. In Jesus Christ's name, amen. Hey, folks, until next week, take care.
Thank you for tuning in to Taking Care of NC. We hope today's program offered valuable insights into the topics shaping North Carolina's future. Stay informed, stay engaged, and join us next time as we continue exploring the issues that matter most to our state. Until then, take care and thank you for being a part of the conversation.
50 AM WAME, 92.9 W225BD, Statesville.
WAME and Bunce Johnson Funeral Home are proud to present our national anthem, Bunce Johnson, where every detail matters. Call them at 704-873-7223 or stop by their location at 705 Davie Avenue, Statesville for your personalized experience.